Good morning, church family. How are you all doing today? I know you're planning on seeing Auntie Rachel today, but today you've got me. Today we're going to be talking about dreams. As you can tell in the Bible, there was many dreams. But today we're going to be focusing on one specific dream, which was a Solomon dream. But before we get to that, we're going to be backtracking a little bit to know about his dad's dream, which was the one and only David, that from David and Goliath. He had a dream that he was going to build a temple for God, but he was not able to. But here's a video explaining why.
If you could go back to the city of Jerusalem during Bible times, the biggest thing you'd see is the temple.
This beautiful building was designed by King David and built by King Solomon, and they believed that it was the home of the God of the universe.
Wait, I thought God's home was in heaven.
Well, the whole point of this earthly temple is that it's the place that overlaps with God's heavenly home. The temple is where God lives and rules all creation as king.
That's cool, but even Solomon, who built the temple, didn't believe that it could contain the God of the universe, right?
Yeah, the building was just a symbol, and it pointed to the fact that all of creation is God's temple. And that's actually what the first page of the Bible, Genesis 1, is all about.
Really? It says that creation is God's temple?
Well, it doesn't need to say it. The whole story shows it. In Genesis 1, God creates an ordered world out of a dark wasteland by speaking in a series of 7 days. Then on the seventh day, God's presence fills creation as he takes up his rest and rule. Similarly, the tabernacle and later the temple were built and dedicated in a series of 7 speeches and 7 days, after which the priest or king could rest and rule in God's presence.
So all of creation is where God intends to dwell. It's like his temple.
Exactly. Now, turn the page to Genesis 2 and we get another portrait of creation. This one focuses in on the land. And in the center of the land is a region called Eden, which in Hebrew means delight.
And in the middle of delight, God plants a garden in which God and humanity live together.
And that's why the temple was modeled after the garden, filled with imagery of gold and flowers. The menorah symbolized the tree of life. It's the place where God dwells with his people.
Oh, got it.
And check this out. In the temple, the Israelite priests and Levites were to work and to keep the temple in God's presence. This is exactly the job description given to humanity in the Garden of Eden.
So these humans were the first priests. But instead of ruling with God, they wanted to rule on their own terms, and they're exiled from the garden temple.
And like Adam and Eve, Israel's leaders also wanted to rule on their own terms, and they too were exiled.
The temple was destroyed, and this left them wondering, did God give up on Israel? Will God bring about a new creation?
Well, the biblical prophets anticipated the day when God would create a new temple with a new priesthood. That's when God's presence would fill all of creation.
And when the Israelites returned to the land, they did rebuild the temple.
But that temple didn't turn out the way the prophets hoped. In fact, later Israelite prophets said that this temple was hopelessly corrupt.
So they're still waiting for the ultimate temple.
And here we come to the story of Jesus. He said that through him, God's presence and rule was coming into our world in a new way. And he presented himself as a new kind of priest.
But Jesus wasn't a priest, and he didn't work in the temple.
Right. Jesus said that God's presence, his rest and rule, was filling the world through his own life, death, and resurrection. Jesus was claiming that he was the true temple, and this new temple would expand out to include all of creation.
That's a really big claim.
And it got even bigger. After his resurrection, Jesus said that God's presence would come to dwell in and among his followers so that they would become mini temples.
Communities of people where God rests and rules.
Exactly. This is the Bible's vision of the church, which is described as a temple.
Not a building, but people.
Yeah, like when Peter says, "You all are living stones built up as a temple for God's Spirit to dwell."
So, at the end of the story, do we ever get a new physical temple?
Well, not exactly. What we see is a renewed cosmic temple, just like Genesis 1. And this new creation doesn't need a temple building because through Jesus, all creation is now the place where God rests and rules the world with his people.
I'm still here, and I'm also so excited that we're going to be talking about dreams. In that video that we just watched, we hear about how David had planned to build this temple of God, but he wasn't able to do so. However, his son did. I find that really interesting because I don't know about your situation, but with my family, my parents had dreams and things that they wanted to do, but weren't able to do so. And maybe that's the same for you. Oh, I need to do that again. You can turn around now. I'm in the flow. And I think that that's so interesting because... And I think that that is so interesting how David's dream was almost passed down to Solomon. For some of us, our parents had big dreams and things that they wanted to do in their lives, but weren't able to do so, just like David. But what they have done instead is pave the way for their children to be able to achieve those dreams or dreams of their own. I know that that's definitely true for me and my family, and it might also be true for you and yours. I understand that there are situations where parents were not there for their kids. Some kids have been brought up in broken homes and broken families. But I really believe that because God is able to turn any situation for good, some dreams can be birthed even from terrible childhoods or terrible upbringing. But back to Solomon. After David died, Solomon became the king of Israel, and this nation was a nation that was so great that they couldn't even count how many people were part of this nation. And then he had a dream.
First Kings 3, verse 5 to 15. That night the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream, and God said, "What do you want? Ask, and I will give it to you." Solomon replied, "You showed great faithful love to your servant my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you. And you have continued to show this great and faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O my Lord, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous they cannot be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong, from who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours."
Then the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. So God replied, "Because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice, and have not asked for a long life or wealth or the death of your enemies, I will give you what you asked for. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else had ever or will ever have. And I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life. And if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commands, as your father David did, I will give you a long life." Then Solomon woke up and realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the Lord's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. Then he invited all his officials to a great banquet.
What if the creator of the universe came to you in a dream and asked you to ask him anything that you would want? What would your response be? So that's what happened to King Solomon. God came to him in a dream and gave him a divine blank check and asked him, ask for anything you want. And so Solomon asked for wisdom and understanding, which God granted to him. And God gave him everything else as well.
Solomon was already the king of Israel, the nation. He was doing God's will. And when God asked him, ask me for anything, he didn't ask for more power. He didn't ask for more wealth or riches. He didn't ask for any of those things. But he asked God for wisdom and so that he can do God's will. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9 that we just read, Solomon says, give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours? Solomon recognized that what God had asked him to do was a big task. His role as leader required a lot of wisdom and understanding. And that's exactly what he asked for. In John chapter 14, verse 12, Jesus says, I tell you the truth, anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even greater works, because I am going to be with the Father. You can ask for anything in my name, and I will do it, so that the Son can bring glory to the Father. Yes, ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. I think there's an invitation here coming from God through Jesus Christ, and it's an invitation to ask him. It's an invitation to dream. I think that sometimes when we ask God for stuff, we place a limitation on what God can actually do for us. God's will for us is to bring glory to the Father. If you were to look at your dreams right now, would achieving those dreams bring glory to God? Sometimes we even place limitations on what God can do for us, but God is big. He is the creator of the universe. There's nothing that is impossible for him. And so if your dreams are actually something that is doable, something that you know you can do, then they're not big enough. There's a quote that I read in a book one time, and it said something like this: the size of your dreams show the size of your God. I think here we have an invitation that comes from God through Jesus, and it's an invitation to ask big, to dream big. So what are you asking for? What are you dreaming of? Yeah, sick. I had a dream from when I was really young to be a doctor. I really wanted to be a doctor of sports medicine. But actually, that was not God's will for my life. When I decided to start asking God what my purpose was, I ended up doing an internship in a church down in London. It wasn't up until about a year later that I realised that I had completely stopped dreaming. I had no vision for my future. I had no real goals or anything like that. And then God invited me to start dreaming. But instead of just dreaming, a normal dream, what do I want to do? He invited me to dream a God-sized dream. And what that means is that if your dream is something that is doable, it's possible, it's achievable by yourself, by your own skills or standards, or even maybe with the help of someone else, then it's not a God-sized dream. A God-sized dream is a dream that actually scares you. It's a dream that seems impossible, because our God is a God of the impossible.
Patience, its timing's never late. Fearless, I know who lives in me. My light and my salvation, the one I put my faith in, day and night. Let's go! I won't doubt you for a second, faith will be my eyes. Throw my worries through the wind and now I'm dancing. I trust you all my life. Let's go. Jesus, the name that never fails. With me, always with me. I know you make a way. My light and my salvation, the one I put my faith in, day and night. I won't doubt you for a second, faith will be my eyes. Throw my worries through the wind and now I'm dancing. I trust you, yeah. I won't doubt you for a second, faith will be my eyes. Throw my worries through the wind and now I'm dancing. I trust you all my life. Let's go. I trust you cause you're perfect, trust you cause you're good. I trust because you love like no one ever could. Yeah, you are my provider, you are my best friend. You will never fail, you're faithful to the end. I trust you cause you're perfect, trust you cause you're good. I trust because you love like no one ever could. Yeah, you are my provider, you are my best friend. You will never fail. I won't doubt you for a second, faith will be my eyes. Throw my worries through the wind and now I'm dancing. I trust you, yeah. I won't doubt you for a second, faith will be my eyes. Throw my worries through the wind and now I'm dancing. I trust you all my life.
So now, what we'd like you to do is to go away and think about your dreams and see if they are a possible or an impossible dream. If someone was supposed to look at your dream, would they see how big your God is?
Brilliant.
problem. Come on, focus, stay focused. Come on. Come on. Guys, go ahead now. First class is a coach. Okay. Well done. There we go. You okay? Finish big. Yes.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. In what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
And that's the end of Friday Night Youth. Thank you all for joining us today. And don't forget to take part in the Creative Challenge and the 1 minute challenge as well. Adios. See you next week. Oh man, why did you have to be? I forgot. That was so nice.
I've been going through changes lately. It's a mad thing. This love got me feeling wavy. Something's happening. I don't want expensive things, Gucci gang or diamond rings. My perception shifted lately. Yeah. C'est la vie, I'm content just doing me. Used to be on up preps on the street, now walk past J's like I ain't got feet. C'est la vie, I'm content just doing me. Used to be vexed if you stepped on my white Nikes, but now I'm like c'est la vie. Hey. You turned my world right upside down. All the things I loved before, I no longer care about. I feel my life with fancy things. Those possessions will possess you and become your everything. Now I giving it up, nah. No hesitation, no doubt. Now I giving it up, nah. That's what I'm all about.
No private jets or designer crepes, cause I love my lifestyle, I'm content. But the fine brother Nikes or the way I dress, you got me feeling like Bruno, hashtag bless. The thing I focus on isn't what I possess. An obsession for possession ain't what I express. I'm not after peak, cause I found my peace. And I am who I am and I'm proud to be.
C'est la vie, I'm content just doing me. Used to be stressed that my soul's were fresh. Now man chiller than frozen peas. C'est la vie, I was blind but now I see. Was defined by the lights of the high street. Now that ain't got a hold on me. Hey. You turned my world right upside down. All the things I loved before, I no longer care about. I feel my life with fancy things. Those possessions will possess you and become your everything. Now I giving it up, nah. No hesitation, no doubt. Now I giving it up, nah. That's what I'm all about. I'm so caught up in your love that everything I have's enough. Your grace is all that I need, and it feels so free. I've had enough of that system. It's no longer my goal. It's pure materialism, and that ain't good for your soul, no. I'm so caught up in your love